Microdosing testosterone, the undetectable window. When Tyson Gay tested positive in 2013, he claimed he unknowingly used a cream, but the real game athletes play is microdosing. They inject tiny amounts of fast-acting testosterone, propionate, or suspension that clear the system in 24 to 48 hours. Standard tests look for testosterone to epitestosterone ratios above 4 to 1. Microdosing keeps you just under that threshold while still getting performance benefits. Athletes inject 25 to 50 milligrams every other day during training, then stop 3 to 4 days before testing. The detection window is so narrow that unless testers show up unannounced at the perfect moment, you're clean. EPO and the biological passport loophole. Lance Armstrong used erythropoietin for years before getting caught. EPO boosts red blood cell production, increasing oxygen delivery to muscles by 10 to 15%. Modern athletes use microdoses of EPO analogs like darbepoetin that stay in the system for shorter periods. The biological passport tracks blood values over time to detect abnormal fluctuations, but athletes manipulate it by establishing a dirty baseline. They use low doses during the off-season when they're tested, creating a baseline with slightly elevated values. Then during competition, those same elevated values look normal because they match their established passport. Cycling, distance running, and cross-country skiing are flooded with this method. Designer steroids not on the banned list yet. Victor Conti, the architect of the Balco scandal, admitted he stayed ahead of testing by using compounds not yet on WADA's prohibited list. Chemists create new anabolic agents by slightly modifying molecular structures of known steroids. These designer steroids provide identical muscle building and recovery benefits, but don't show up on standard tests because labs aren't looking for them specifically. By the time WADA adds them to banned lists, new variants already exist. Athletes using cutting-edge designer compounds have 12 to 24-month windows before testing catches up. Selective androgen receptor modulators, the gray market. SARMs like Osterin and Ligandrol build muscle without the full androgenic effects of steroids. Russian athletes tested positive for these compounds at the 2016 Olympics, claiming contaminated supplements. The truth is, SARMs provides significant performance enhancement with detection windows of only 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the compound. Athletes cycle them during heavy training blocks, then stop a month before major competitions. Many SARMs still aren't reliably detected by standard testing panels, creating massive enforcement gaps. HGH, the golden goose of undetectable enhancement. Human growth hormone has a detection window of 24 to 36 hours maximum. Peyton Manning had HGH shipped to his house under his wife's name, though he denied using it. Athletes inject HGH daily during training, getting enhanced recovery, injury healing, and lean muscle gains. They simply stop injections 2 to 3 days before testing. The isoform test that detects HGH is expensive and rarely used outside of Olympics and World Championships. Most professional leagues test for HGH so infrequently that athletes easily navigate around testing windows. The performance benefits are substantial while the risk of getting caught is minimal. Blood doping and autologous transfusions. This is what got Alberto Salazar's athletes in trouble. Withdraw your own blood weeks before competition, store it properly, then reinfuse it right before racing. Your body replaces the withdrawn blood naturally, so when you add the stored blood back, you temporarily have 10 to 15% more red blood cells. Oxygen carrying capacity spikes dramatically. There's no foreign substance to detect because it's your own blood. The only way to catch this is through the biological passport showing impossible hematocrit spikes or catching athletes with transfusion equipment. Tyler Hamilton got caught when testers found mixed blood cell populations, indicating he used someone else's blood instead of his own. Diuretics to flush and dilute. When athletes know testing is coming but banned substances are still in their system, they use diuretics like furosemide or hydrochlorothiazide. These drugs force massive water excretion, diluting urine to make drug metabolites harder to detect. The sample looks clean because concentrations drop below detection thresholds. Testing agencies counter this by measuring specific gravity and creatinine levels to detect dilution, but athletes combat this by taking creatine supplements beforehand to normalize creatinine readings. It's a cat and mouse game. Canelo Alvarez tested positive for clenbuterol, but claimed meat contamination. Many suspect he was using diuretics that got flagged instead. Masking agents and epitestosterone. When Barry Bonds allegedly used the cream in the clear, he reportedly also used epitestosterone to maintain normal testosterone ratios. Athletes inject synthetic epitestosterone to keep their TE ratio under 4:1 even while using testosterone. This worked for years until WADA started testing for synthetic epitestosterone specifically. Now athletes use more sophisticated masking agents like probenecid that accelerate drug excretion through kidneys. These agents help clear steroids faster while making detection more difficult. Timing cycles around testing schedules. Professional athletes know their sport's testing calendar. Out-of-competition testing is less frequent than in competition. Athletes load up on long-acting compounds like testosterone, enanthate, or decadurabolin during the off-season when testing is minimal, building muscle and strength that persists even after stopping. Then they switch to short-acting compounds or nothing at all during competition season. MLB players mysteriously bulk up 20 pounds in the off-season, then show up to spring training clean but maintaining their gains. The muscle built on drugs doesn't disappear the moment you stop. It persists for months, bribing and corrupting testing officials. The Russian doping scandal revealed systemic corruption where officials switched contaminated samples for clean ones through literal holes in laboratory walls. Athletes passed hundreds of dirty samples to FSB agents who swapped them with clean urine. While this level of state-sponsored corruption is rare, individual athletes absolutely bribe collection officers in smaller competitions. A few $1,000s to look the other way while you substitute clean urine is cheaper than losing sponsorships. This happens more in lower-tier competitions where oversight is minimal. Using substances not yet detectable. TB500 and BPC157 are peptides that dramatically accelerate injury healing and tissue repair. They're on WADA's prohibited list, but detection methods are still being developed. Athletes use these compounds freely because testing can't reliably catch them yet. Same with newer SARMs, novel peptides, and experimental compounds. By the time reliable tests exist, athletes have moved on to the next undetectable substance. The arms race between chemists creating new drugs and labs developing detection methods will never end. The whereabouts system loophole. Elite athletes must report their location daily for random out-of-competition testing. 3 missed tests in 12 months equals a doping violation. But athletes exploit this by providing locations where they're genuinely hard to find, claiming confusion about addresses, or having assistants delay testers at gates while they hide. Christian Coleman, the world's fastest man, had multiple whereabouts failures but avoided suspension through technicalities. Athletes also time their availability windows strategically, reporting they'll be somewhere remote or difficult to access during peak drug use periods. Microdosing during competition. Some athletes take incredibly bold risks by using fast-clearing drugs during multi-day competitions. Track and field athletes at championships spanning 7 to 10 days might use testosterone suspension or oral steroids with 12-hour detection windows between rounds and finals. They take tiny doses after evening preliminaries that clear before morning testing the next day. The performance boost is smaller but still meaningful, and the detection risk is minimal if they time it perfectly. This requires precise knowledge of pharmacokinetics and nerves of steel. Gene doping, the undetectable future. This isn't widespread yet, but it's coming. Gene therapy that increases EPO production, enhances muscle growth genes like myostatin inhibition, or boosts IGF-1 expression permanently alters an athlete's physiology. There's no drug to detect because the body produces enhanced substances naturally after genetic modification. WADA has no reliable test for gene doping. Reports suggest Chinese and Russian sports programs are experimenting with these techniques. Once gene doping becomes accessible and affordable, traditional drug testing becomes obsolete. Why they risk everything? The financial incentive is massive. Olympic gold medals lead to sponsorships worth millions. Professional contracts in cycling, track, or swimming pay exponentially more to winners than runners-up. When the difference between first and fourth place is 0.2 seconds and potentially $5 million in earnings, athletes calculate that doping is worth the risk. Testing catches maybe 1 to 2% of users. Those odds are acceptable when careers are short and earning windows are narrow. Until consequences become more severe than rewards, doping will continue regardless of testing improvements.